quick?
Yes, I am.
That's good. Okay, now Team Dignitas, 3 match wins in a row, including a win over, of course, right here over Liquid. So talking about this transformation, Coach Kopp making you guys the best team in NA now, what's going on with that?
Dude, Kopp is the process himself, dude. He came in with 24 hours. We were able to 2-0 FlyQuest, and then 48 hours, and we lost the game to TL. So maybe it just gets worse with time. I'm not sure. We'll see. No, Kopp. No, he's really helpful to have around. He helped us in draft a lot, and it's been really good having him. So yeah.
And I got to see you guys in person here, waiting for the interview to start. You guys seemed a lot more talkative than last week. Like, tell me, sort of behind the scenes, like, it feels you guys are starting to have a lot better time as a team and gelling on stage.
Yeah, man, we were on like a huge loss streak and we were not doing too well, but we just had like a huge meeting between like all the players, and we were like, all right, let's just like get our energy up, focus more, like let's bring it back, you know, like we were like 9th place or something, dude, and like our roster is not a 9th place roster, dude. Like we could be like a top 3 roster, so I feel like we got things together, and maybe TL wasn't like the greatest opponent, but with beating FlyQuest and TL and then Envy last week, I feel like we're starting to pick things up, and it's only going to get better.
I definitely agree. 3 match wins in a row. I want to ask you about changes in the bottom lane. You talked about the roster getting together. You've gone back and forth with Stunt and Xpecial. Talk to me about what that's about, first of all.
Well, I think Stunt's like actually an insanely good player. I think he needs like a little bit more time to like improve and like show up on stage a little bit more, but I'm happy to have him around. Xpecial, you know, he's like a pretty seasoned veteran. You know, he's been playing a long time, so he gives me a lot of confidence playing on stage because he doesn't really seem to get shooken up by anything, so it's nice to have around. But I like playing with both of them. They're both really good players.
And it seemed like those two are friendly amongst each other as well. For your match yesterday, I saw him hug after the game. Like, is that camaraderie going well also?
Yeah, everyone gets along. Like, there's no animosity about it. It's just like everyone wants us to improve, you know? So the atmosphere is really good, and I'm happy. Yeah.
I'm glad to see things turning around. You guys starting to get some wins. Thank you very much for the interview. Congrats on the win. See you next week for hopefully 2 more match wins. Toss over to the analysts.
Thank you very much, Freak. Laud talking there about the fact that the Dignitas roster is not a 9th place roster. But for all intents and purposes, I think a lot of people would say that the Team Liquid roster is also not a 9th place roster, or at least it shouldn't be. And so when you look at this game, preseason expectations say that with a world champion Piglet on one side and the most talked about acquisition in Sunday on the other, that this should be one of the best matchups we see all split.
Right, I mean, and it's so disappointing kind of as just a fan of quality League of Legends to kind of see what it's become, because you would think like, okay, this superstar top lane, they're going to try and play around him. Team Liquid's got this former world champion bot laner. We're going to see these 2 clash of styles. And it is a clash of styles, but it's more like TL makes a ton of mistakes and like ruins their own ability to carry, and Dignitas plays this really pulled back style, just hoping the other team throws. And it's not at all what you were hoping for coming into the season, and they don't play like what they should on paper, and it's just a little disappointing to see.
Now, to that effect, Dignitas still comes away with a 2-0 week, so that's a huge resurgence for them in the wake of how their season was going post week 1.
I think, okay, start of the season, they're like, okay, our identity is we work around someday. He 1v9s for us, cool. Realizes that they actually need to play like a team, and then so someday switches over to like playing tanks, and then they become a very reactive-based team. Like these last 2 series, they're really good at being able to take a bad initiation and turning it.
Right.
And so that's not the best thing you want in the team, but it's something, you know, you can work with it. Yes.
Right, I mean, if you looked at, what was it, like 2-3 weeks ago when they had that series versus Immortals where they just hung back and did nothing and just gave them the game, this is obviously, you know, a massive step.
Yeah, so maybe like obviously Kopp can't do anything or enough in 48 hours, but maybe just a change of pace and finding this one way to work like leads them to finding how to play better League.
Right, this gives them the baseline for, okay, we've established a way of slowing the game down, playing with as few mistakes on our side as we can. Let the others make the mistakes. The next step would be creating plays and strategies that either force mistakes out of the enemy team or can just, you know, simply from a strategy aspect or a macro standpoint, outplay them.
Right, and I think you kind of see, at least they do have some plays that they try and go for, like the example being the level 1 where they're trying to steal the red buff. But once again, it kind of comes off the back, the really big benefit of it, of TL not being on the same page.
Right, yeah, just 2 minutes into the game, we have 2 kills going over to a Cassiopeia. Let's take a look at that, because TL is putting themselves in a fairly large hole here.
This is a great position for Piglet to be in. Like, he's flanking them, he's got the great angle, they have to get out, and they're gonna lose this for sure. And the thing is, they know they're there. Why is Rise not collapsing before the Cassio? Rise shoves faster than Cassio how can Casio possibly collapse first unless they miscommunicate?
Right, the waves are positioned in the middle of the lane there mid. It would be one thing if Casio was already under Ryze's turret for whatever reason, but to your point, Scar, they were essentially evenly matched there. There's no excuse.
And the thing is, Ryze is the ghost. Like, Casio as the cleanse. Like, if you really need to, like, I'm sure you find some way to work your way out if you cut at the same time.
Right, and it's just, you are collapsing onto that red buff attempt because you're pretty sure you're there. You should communicate that to your mid laner. Your mid laner should start positioning to the bot side to maybe have to join or something, and nothing like that really happens on the side of TL.
All right, so Dignitas is the the beneficiary of a whole lot of Team Liquid mistakes. Let's go ahead and fast forward to 22 minutes into the game. A 4-for-1 in the top lane for Dignitas here. Take a look.
Right, starts out with a pick on the golden glue.
Don't know why he's there.
Yeah, just overextended a little bit, and he goes down really early. But then this is that Team Liquid over-aggression that they're pretty
Right, that's fine. One person died.
for. Yeah,
Back
so
up.
One person dies. Let's go pick a 4v4 with their Cassiopeia collapsing. It's going to end up being a 4v5. It's just such a hard fight to win because they were not super ahead in the game at this point.
Yeah, and this is kind of that peculiarity in some of the Team Liquid shock line where once again you say, if they can rid themselves of these mistakes, having as mechanically skilled a player as Piglet, a guy who's as capable as he is of carrying games, you eliminate those mistakes, and then that strategy might actually work. But when you are making these, kind of run-in one-by-one solo queue decisions to hand your leads back, an AD carry, particularly in this meta, is not going to get to a place where they can carry the game single-handedly.
No.
And the problem is, it's like, Piglet's not the consistent top-tier AD that you want. Like, you want Arrow. You want to be supporting Arrow, and Arrow can 1v5 for you. But Piglet's the type of guy who's like, he's always going to play aggro, and sometimes he just loses lane. Like, there should be no reason why he dies to Zyro and their bot lane gets like 0-3 before 8 minutes. I think that's like unacceptable for the level of the player that he like wants to be, and he's like shown he is capable of.
Yeah, player of the game going to a special this time around. We don't see it going to supports all that often, but he had a pretty stellar game.
Right, I mean, despite that kind of bad early start for TL, they actually did grab control of the game through the bot lane, kind of taking the turret really early. But then whenever TL tried to go group up for vision and move into the jungle, Xpecial was sitting in a brush already with a Malzahar ult. And he was able to get a lot of picks to stall the game out until that big play at the top side, which really blew the game open for Dignitas.
Yeah, I mean, that's that veteran there who, has some idea of where the macro game is going to take Team Liquid and capitalizing on their mistakes. Now let's kind of pull ourselves back and recognize the 2-0 week that Dignitas had and where they might go from here. Once again, the expectation for this roster was that they would be a top 3 team at the outset of the season. So they've got a long way to climb to get there. But we've established a baseline, Skara. What's the next thing you want to see out of them?
That's a really strange question because every team kind of takes different steps,
Yep.
For the biggest thing is to make sure everyone's foundation is the same. Like, everyone's on the same page when it comes to like how to execute stuff, how to execute plays. At the moment, their foundation obviously isn't good. So building from that is like the coach's job to be able to work with the team to build. And it's really late to do that.
And I mean, for me personally, one of the biggest reasons I rated Dignitas so highly coming to the season was the fact that they were going to have Korean infrastructure. And we've seen how impactful an import coach can be, like Reaper. And then obviously there's been something not quite right there. Obviously you bring in Cop in the middle of the season to replace the coaching staff. There has been a breakdown in the coaching staff. And like you said, it's their job to get the foundation right. So in that sense, Dignitas started at a deficit, and who knows what their potential really is if you're having to switch out coaching staffs halfway through the season.
So I think before expectations may have been a lot higher. At the moment, I have no expectations. I think they'd be lucky to make it into playoffs, and playoffs should be their goal. Getting in, and however far they go from there is just up to them.
All right, but do you think that someday, because you mentioned at the beginning of the season, we're looking at someday carries. Then we're like, no, let's reorient to a team fight focus where we're putting him back on tanks. Okay, today we see him on Camille, and we're finding success there again with him on carries. Do you think, and I'm not saying that they have to have one prescribed way of winning, so, feel free to say, no, they've got multiple ways, but is it best to have someday in a matchup similar to this where he could really run away with a game because you're not necessarily certain that Laud, for example, will put up a game like a Piglet on a carry champion would?
I think against Team Liquid in particular, I like that they didn't stick him on a tank. It felt like a lot of these games, TL's bot lane was actually kind of smashing Dignitas's, and if you end up with him just on a tank, you see those kind of games where he gets stuck out.
All right, well, there we go. Dignitas finishing their week out in 2-0 fashion. They'll be very happy about that. We've got more league action coming your way after the break. Team Envy take on a surging Echo Fox when we return. You won't want to miss it.
I can play bar. You can play like ADC.
You want to play ADC? Oh, you think you're a better bar than me?
Yes, dude.
Piglet flashes after them, looking to make this happen. First blood. Matt doing a good job keeping him alive. Right over, can't return the favor.
I'm coming. Okay, I can go. I can go. Caitlyn. I can Caitlyn.
Nice. Lorlo gonna be bursted down. Wild Growth is on him, but again, he's just not tanky enough. You don't say that about Poppy every day. Lorlo's gonna be the next one if he's not careful. Grabs the kill onto the spider, smashes him with the hammer, and someday cuts him to pieces. Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 games, Dignitas is gonna find their victory over Liquid.